Welcome to this very important event here at Capitol Hill. And we're really focusing on one of the nation's most urgent responsibilities, and that's keeping our children safe in their school. We're honored to have Representative Gonzalez and the Bipartisan School Safety and Security Caucus here, who's hosting this, whose leadership reflects the shared bipartisan commitment required to keep students safe. Today's program is presented by ZeroNow and the National Council of School Safety Directors. I think most of you are aware of the relationship between ZeroNow and NCSSD. Last year, Representative Gonzalez was at our inauguration of the National Council of School Safety Directors, which was a program of ZeroNow. We determined through years of discussions that there's a critical piece that's missing in the puzzle of school safety, and that's the leadership. Who's actually going to implement and operate the programs and resources that ensure that kids are safe at our schools? And that key role isn't a school safety director, school safety coordinator, but someone who has a trained and background in safety from a holistic perspective. This whole group is a collaboration, if you will, between both organizations. For those of you that are new to ZeroNow, the mission of ZeroNow is very simple. It's really to make generational change through facilitating collaboration with school safety stakeholders to make schools safer for good. And we talk about generational change. We want to get to the point where our children, grandchildren could go to school feeling safe and not be concerned about the well-being and coming home from school. That's just a critical factor. And our goal is to get to zero. That's why we called the organization ZeroNow. So this event brings together policymakers, educators, safety leaders, and community partners to recognize the leadership that is translating policy into practice and making a real difference around schools in the country. We're not here just to honor excellence, but to reaffirm our collective responsibility to protect students, educators, and staff every day. And part of the idea behind this National School Safety Leadership Award is to remember, memorialize, and keep it focus of a student that lost their life to a school tragedy until there are zero names left. So we'll be here every single year until there's no more names to remember. At the heart of this program is remembering Emilie Parker, and her legacy continues to inspire action, compassion, and resolve. Before we get started, I'd like to take a brief moment of silence to remember Emilie, as well as all those that have lost their life in school violence. We're honored to have Emilie's father and sister with us today, and Robbie will say a few words. So it's our honor to be hosted by Representative Tony Gonzalez, co-chair of the Bipartisan School Safety and Security Caucus, representing Texas's 23rd Congressional District. Congressman Gonzalez brings a steadfast commitment to bipartisan solutions that protect students, support educators, and strengthen communities nationwide. As chair of the caucus, he has been a consistent advocate for practical, evidence-based approaches for school safety, bringing together leaders across parties to focus on prevention, most importantly, prevention, preparedness, and coordinated response. We're grateful for his leadership and for hosting us on Capitol Hill as we recognize extraordinary leadership in school safety and security. Representative.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see Yato. A late happy military, our Marine Corps birthday. So many people love this country, and we forget that a lot of times. And school safety is one of those issues that shouldn't divide us, it should unite us, because we all have children, we all have grandchildren, we all have neighbors. School should be a sanctuary. It shouldn't be a place where you're terrified in any form or fashion. And so thank y'all for coming up here and advocating over and over again on all the different issues. And your voice has not gone unheard. I was really excited that we were able to get the National Strategy for School Safety Act out of the House, passed out of the House, into the Senate, and we have bipartisan co-sponsors in the Senate. So, I mean, that's teed up to get over the finish line. And that's just one example. You know, that doesn't talk about guns. That doesn't talk about some of the polarizing issues. It's just a simple strategy to identify the vulnerabilities that our schools have. And every school district is completely different. You know, I represent 119 cities and towns. You know, I've got some schools that are right on a road. I've got other schools that are in the middle of neighborhoods. I've got other schools that are very rural. I mean, just every place is different. This is a conversation we all should be having up here over and over again. We shouldn't be waiting for something terrible to happen and responding. We should be, as you mentioned, preventative. We should be thinking, how do we get ahead of this? So it's my honor to make this a priority. I will always make it a priority, mainly because I've got skin in the game. When you have 6 children, like I'm worried about my oldest son being at the university. I'm worried about my youngest daughter being in an elementary school and everything in between. So, and at some point I'll have grandbabies and I'll be worried about my grandbabies as well. So this is an issue that's really important. I cannot thank y'all enough for constantly coming up here, constantly being involved, because that's the way our founding fathers meant it to be. Like, we, the people, determine what we need to have, and school safety should be a priority to us. Shouldn't just be words. It shouldn't just be blame. It shouldn't just be somebody else's fault. It should be, how do we solve a problem? And I think this caucus is a big part of it. You don't get a lot of bipartisan things nowadays up here. The fact that we were able to get that bill, I think, out of the House and on its way to the Senate and hopefully on the way to the White House is a really important thing. That cannot happen without y'all. So please keep leaning on us. Please keep doing what you need to do and advocating for the things that are important to us, and keep holding us accountable, right? Make sure that lawmakers aren't just talking the talk, but we're walking the walk and we're delivering. So thank y'all very much for having me today. And I don't know if there are any questions or comments or what else you need from me, but I'm glad you are here today. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think last we spoke when we were launching the NCSSD, we talked about getting base hits, right? When it comes to school safety, making an incremental change versus always trying to swing for the fences. Well, now we're in football season, so it's more about first down approach. So keep moving the ball down the field, if you will. So I appreciate your commitment to this cause. And like I mentioned earlier, it's about generational change. We want to make sure that future generations go to school and feel safe. And there are things that we can do, things that are involved. That we talk about the path to safer schools, looking at cultural things that cost $0 at schools. But those are things that we need to look at and make sure that everyone's informed on the right approach to holistic school safety. With that, I'd like to introduce Robbie Parker, the father of Emilie, and Robbie's got a few words to share with us, and so please, sir.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here too. It's I always love Emilie always talked about this power of connections, and she always had a way of seeing patterns and stuff in her life and making connections, some that were really obvious, some that were only obvious to her. But and so when I in a room with people like this and just trying to get to know everybody and learn about your stories and just how all of our different life experiences, whether we have skin in the game because we've been directly impacted by a school shooting or because we have people that we love that are vulnerable because they just go to school. All these different stories and where our paths connect and brought us here today. And so I just really want to just quickly talk about 2 different people's stories. And the first individual I don't talk about hardly ever, but this person was just really struggling in life and had a lot of obstacles to overcome, was in a situation where the people around him that were trying to get him help were struggling with that as well. And so as time went on, he became more and more isolated, and the solutions that he was coming from were all coming from within. And he stopped getting outside help. He stopped collaborating. He stopped thinking outside the box, and things just got darker and darker and darker for him. And eventually got to a place where he did exactly something which we can't understand or comprehend, but became very self-centered and very selfish. And the path that he took to get to where he went ended up not only just taking his own life, but he took 26 other lives with him in the process. And I think about him and I think about his story a lot. And I think about ways in which our system and our society failed something that could have easily been prevented, right? And it opened up me into this world of things that we need to do and things that we can accomplish, and seeing that there's a problem that I didn't know existed that needed solutions. And then it makes me think of my daughter Emily. And when there's so many things I could talk about what I love about her, but one of the coolest things was, so she was this kid that you'd be in line at a grocery store and you'd feel like a tug on your jacket sleeve or something like that, and she would be like, "Hey, can I get this or can I get this?" And she wouldn't accept no. I couldn't just say no. She always had to have a reason why. And so I would explain it as you would as like a dad. And there were so many of these experiences, and now I'm like up here and I can't like remember like exactly one of them. But what was really cool about Emily was I would give her my explanation and she would sit there, and she never like threw a tantrum. She never like really argued back with me or anything, but she'd sit there for a minute thinking, and then I'd feel another tug on my sleeve. She would say, "But what about this?" And a lot of times she would bring up something from her perspective and from her viewpoint and where she was coming from that I never would have thought of. And then I also couldn't argue with her. And I'd be like, "Okay, you're right. We'll go ahead and get that now. Like, you brought up a very valid point." And so when I look at these two different individuals, and one that turned inside and just thought that they were going to be the ones that could get the solutions, or they were the ones that stopped asking for help. And then I look at Emily and that question and just like, "But what about this? But what about this?" And when I think back about experiences with her and my daughter Madeline and my other child Samantha, when they would play together, like, of course, Emily being the older one would have ideas, but it was always like a collaborative effort. It was always taking everybody else's opinions or perspective or ideas and then making things funner and making things better, and brought more joy and happiness into our home. And so when we got involved in the school safety realm of our society, again, which we never would have thought was something that needed to be addressed, Alyssa can speak, my wife Alyssa can speak a lot more to this because she was involved directly in school safety with another Sandy Hook mom. But there was a lot of things that they wanted to create answers for and find solutions to. But they really quickly realized that we don't have them all. And people that are out there that in this space that want to do good things, and they're here for a good reason, but they want to say that their product is the best, or that their program is the best, or that this is the solution for this and that. And I just don't want to lose sight of what it means to keep asking those questions. But what about this? And but what about this? And have you considered this? And it's just a powerful lesson from a 6-year-old girl who just saw the world differently. And it was beautiful and it was full of light. And that is what I love about a space like this, and what you guys are trying to do here is keep those questions going and not get so embedded in what it is that I can find the solution to, but where can I help and what can I do to be a part of the solution and not feel like I am the solution. So thank you guys for all your work and for having us be here.
Thank you, Robbie. And what you shared really captures the essence of what ZeroNow is. It's about sharing ideas, right? Different perspectives. What about this? Can we make this work? And some have started to characterize ZeroNow as a think tank, right? And some of us call it more of an action tank, but that's what it is. It's about, what about this? Have you thought about this? And one of the key things that we learned over the last several years is that there's so many different pieces of the puzzle. Like Robbie mentioned, use this technology, use this program. This is the best. If we just had drones and flying cars and robots, we'll all be safe. But the thing is, until you understand what school safety actually looks like, it's like, we use a metaphor all the time that it's like a puzzle box, all these different pieces of the puzzle, but you don't have a top of the box. So how do you know what it looks like if you don't have that clarity of what the top of the box actually looks like? And that's what we're trying to do as a collective impact organization with ZeroNow, National Council of School Safety Directors. We're trying to make sure that there's clarity of what does that look like, all the different pieces of the puzzle when they are together. And it goes from, like I mentioned, culture, focusing on prevention. And when prevention fails, how quickly can we respond to make sure that nobody gets harmed? And that's what the goal is. So with that, thank you, Robbie, once again. We appreciate it. And Madeline, we're glad that you're here with us. So now comes to the presentation of the Emilie Parker National School Safety Leadership Award, an honor bestowed by ZeroNow and the National Council of School safety directors to recognize extraordinary leadership and lasting impact in protecting students and school communities. And I have to emphasize extraordinary because the recipient this year has done extraordinary work over the last year, let alone the last 10 years. To present this award, it's my honor to welcome Jason Stoddard, the School Safety and Security Director at Charles County Public Schools and the inaugural chair of the National Council of School Safety Directors and also the inaugural president of the NCSSD. So Jason, please.
I'm going to try and do this without having to put my glasses on so I look like I'm 30 years older. Today, we honor a leader whose work exemplifies the spirit and purpose of the Emilie Parker School Safety and Security Leadership Award. Guy Bliesner serves as a senior analyst at the Idaho State Board of Education and is a nationally respected voice in school safety leadership. He is the architect of the Foundations of School Leadership certificate, the first nationally scalable framework designed specifically for professionalism and to bring forth better school safety leaders. Guy's vision brought together experts from across the country and established a continuing education pathway through the Idaho State University, setting a nation's first national standard in training and preparedness for school safety. With more than 15 years of experience as an educator and school safety professional, Guy believes in school safety as everybody's responsibility, and his work empowers those who partner with us, our communities, our students, and our community. His leadership extends nationally through standard development, cross-sector collaboration, advising policymakers on how to protect our students. Most importantly, Guy's work is not theoretical. It's practical, actionable, and altogether protects the lives of our school children. On a personal note, it is my great honor to stand here in front of you and present this to a man who, as we began to establish NCSSD in February of last year, which I'll remind you is about 2 years ago, was first on my list of recruits. We put together a letter of 13, or a group of 13 people, and Guy was number one on the list. The reason for that is, as we sit here today, as those of us who do this or in this profession every day, we look for people whose shoulders we can stand on. And there's no better person whose shoulders that we can stand on than Guy Bliesner. Steeped in faith, family, and professionalism, it is my profound honor to recognize my friend, my mentor, Guy Bliesner, is the 2025 Emilie Parker National School Safety Leadership Award recipient.
First of all, for the attendance today of Robbie and Emily's sister, I think all of us who do this work wish that there was not the need for this award to exist. In the best of all worlds, this is not something we would give because it wouldn't be needed. I want to thank Representative Gonzalez for reminding us that school safety is it's not about partisanship, it's about peopleship. That it is, I think it's one of those common grounds that we can all agree on. Our kids are important, they need to be safe. I was looking over the list of all those who were nominated, and many I know by reputation, a great number personally, and any one of them would have been a fitting recipient to stand before you today. That I was chosen simply means that there is so much work to be done that all of us together aren't enough to do it all. I would hope that as we go forward, we can begin to look at the elements of school safety that are foundational, that should be the expectation of every student, every parent, and every educator in the United States. I often see and are at conferences dealing with folks who tell me they sell solutions. With my profound respect, you do not. You sell tools. The solutions are the people using your tools effectively to address the problems that exist. I'm pleased to have had an element of bringing maybe some clarity to the chaos in this space. If you work in this space, every event that takes place, the blogosphere blows up. Ads I had 122 ads the day after the Uvalde event with the thing that would have made it safe, when we have forgotten that it is people who keep schools safe. It's the people doing the right thing the right way every day. As Ara alluded to, it's the cultural element. And cultural is the shared ethos and common expectations of a group. And that when we accept that propping doors open is inappropriate and not allowed, when we become understanding that a child exhibiting a deviance from their baseline behavior needs to be dealt with. And I will tell you, teachers have a superpower. They know these kids' baseline behavior in a social situation better than their parents. Deviance from baseline and routing the appropriate services or intervention to that child is a critical element on the prevention side. I'm a big fan of left of bang. If we can keep it from going bang, I'm much, much happier. Let's address it before it happens. But as we go down the road and we look at all of the solutions that we're being promised will keep our schools safe, we always have to go back and remember that all of those things do not work absent the people. That's the teachers, the security professionals. And I will tell you, I started my life as a math and history teacher. I taught the wonders of the quadratic equation to 35 disinterested freshmen, 6 periods a day. So I do understand the educational context, and that's the other piece. Security in a school is not like security anywhere else in the world. And our fiduciary duty to those students is ground into an educator at your first class. It's called in loco parentis, in the place of the parent. We stand in the place of the parent for every one of those children placed in our care every day. And it's our responsibility to return them to their parents at the end of the day. And, God willing, educate them, socialize them, help them to become useful and productive citizens. Working with ZeroNow has been a real benefit for me, and the NCSSD. The work on the fossil course has been gratifying because they didn't teach me any of this stuff when I went and took my administrative credential. We talked about the wonders of maybe what is a attractive nuisance, what is liability, what's liability per se, and we didn't talk about what happens in an event. How do we address these things? So working on fossil, helping for educators to understand the security landscape has been truly rewarding. And working with the NCSSD, and I will leave you with this, there are foundational elements to school security. And they are simple. And unfortunately, in the course of over 1,200 school assessments, they're lacking in many schools. We need to go back and fix the foundation before we add the next piece. And the foundation is often, let's make sure doors are locked. Let's make sure people can't come in through the side door. Let's be certain that a classroom door can be locked appropriately and effectively in need. Let's be certain that if there is a need, the communication is available to hear and be heard throughout an entire school. Those are foundational elements. And it's the ZeroNow recently authored a Foundations of Physical Security piece. If you have not read it, I highly recommend it to you, because it talks about common sense, basic strategies before we go to flying cars and drones and robots and all of those things. And I'm a guy. I like gadgets. I'm going to be real upfront. But I don't like gadgets at the expense of the basic requirements that are all of the things that every school child in the United States deserves. Every parent and every educator should expect that at their school they have these things. Robbie, my sincere condolences to you. I don't know how I would have dealt with it. You have done something that I'm hoping I could have, but that's turned a horrible tragedy to something beneficial. Thank you. Thank your wife and your family for what you have done. Everyone, I saw the list of people who were nominated here. I'm honored to be counted among them, and I'm beyond honored to have been chosen to represent that group. Each of them share in a piece of this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Once again, as I mentioned, the work you've done over the last year is extraordinary. And I know Guy mentioned FOSSIL, the Foundations of School Security Leadership program that was primarily developed by Guy but brought together school safety leaders from around the country to participate in this. And it's a basically 9-hour, 9-class program, if you will. But the goal here is for anyone who is responsible for safety and security in your school or your district, whether you're a PE teacher in a small rural school or district. But if you're responsible for safety and security, take the Foundations of School Security Leadership course. And it is, their partners have funded scholarships for it. So it's $100, but it's free if somebody wants to take it. So that's important because our goal is to make sure that every single person who is responsible for safety and security takes this course, because it gives you the picture. What does a puzzle box look like? And that's really what the outcome of that course is, to give you that big picture of what school safety and security looks like. So thank you, Guy, for that and everything that you've done. Well, that's the end of the program, guys, and it moved along pretty quickly. Just wanted to thank you all for braving the weather and making it out here today. If you're interested in learning more about FOSSIL and NCSSD and ZeroNow, visit ncsSD.org, zeronow.org. But strongly encourage you to share that Foundations of School Security Leadership course with anyone that you know that might be involved in school safety and security, including school board directors and principals and superintendents, because the more what was it? Sims, an educated consumer is our best customer. We want to make sure that school leaders, policymakers are aware of what does the puzzle box look like, so you can make decisions based on limited resources, because resources are limited. Before spending money on all these fancy stuff, there are some foundational things. Guy,
If I may,
please.
one of the things I found early on as I began my course as a school security director at the district level is cops and teachers use the same words, but they mean very different things to them. And the attempt at FOSSIL was to be able to translate teacher to cop, cop to teacher, and be certain that when we say things, we understand the specific nuance. School safety and security are often named together. They're vastly different issues. And we need to understand those things so that we can talk in a communication only happens when you understand the same words the same way.
Absolutely. And as a testament to the program, I'm the low bar. I even passed the course. So if I can do it, anyone can. So there you go. There you go. So thank you all for coming out. There's food, coffee here. So please stick around. Guy is here to chat with you. And so thank you all. Thank you, Guy, very much. And thank you, Robbie, Madeline, for coming out. We really appreciate it. Thank you.